Previously on Reset Race.
Black people are overrepresented in the media as being violent, as being drug addicts, as being criminals, and so we're learning to associate Black people in that way.
Right.
Just like, what do you think about, what do you associate peanut butter with? What's the first thing? Peanut butter and?
Jelly.
That's subconscious. We're not thinking about that. We're subconsciously associating Black people with being violent. We don't break bread with Black people on a large scale in the Indian community.
Right.
And so we go off these stereotypes, these biases that we don't even know that we have. And so that we have these ideas about Black people that perpetuate anti-Blackness.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like young people, educated people my age that have said things like, but they have the same kind of opportunities, or they're not working as hard, or things in that direction. And I think for me, one big takeaway that I want to kind of talk about is like how to handle those situations, because this is something personal for me because I have Black people in my family, and I don't want anyone in my family to ever feel different, ever feel like they are not equal or they are less than, which is I think deep down what a lot of Indian people do think.
So I think one of the things that you said, it made me think about the model minority myth, and it is related to us as being, we're part of the Asian group, and Indian people are the wealthiest, we're the most educated, and the idea, that was a term coined by government officials, and the idea is we came here after 1965 in a widespread way, and now we know English, we are educated, well, we can do it then. Black people have been here
chose to come here.
Hold on. You forgot to say what happened after 1965 that made it where you could come here in masses.
Listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, back on the grill again. We grilling them, You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. Be focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to U.S. Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win, you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. Be focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
We have to remember that we chose to come here, and Black people experienced over 350 years of systemic oppression and laws and policies that oppressed them and discriminated against them. We didn't have to deal with that.
And are still systemically oppressed in this country. Our oppression has not ended. You can tell by our communities, you can tell by the prisons, you can tell by how Black people are treated in this country.
And the racial wealth gap.
Don't forget to talk about the money.
Need our bread. Word up.
We have an upper advantage because we came here and Black people actually literally cleared the path.
They did everything for us.
Yeah.
They pushed through all of that. I mean, we deal with a little bit of racism.
We deal with racism.
But nothing in comparison to Black people.
So when you hear someone say, well, Black people are lazy, or,
you deal with bigotry. Bigotry and systemic racism are different. There is no system set up to oppress all Asian people. there are particular people who may not like Asian people, who may be bigots, who may have specific issues, and they'll try to block you moving up. But there's no system of group that is moving towards your group. Now, when they said that our things are different, she didn't get into this. There has not, Black people have, let's not say Black people, never, the riots. But for normal history, outside of mitigating circumstances, Black people have not gone, not even that, I can scratch all that. When have you seen an Asian community burnt down in the last 50 years? Or not last 50 years, I'm sorry. But when was an Asian community burnt down in the last 50 years? Outside of like the riots. When have white people burnt down an Asian community? When have white people ran into a Mexican community and burnt down that community in the last, 40, 50 years? When's the last time? And the reason why I'm saying that is because all of y'all got here in the last 40, 50, like most of y'all got here in the last 40 years. Like these people got here in the like a lot of people got here in the 80s. Like a lot of people got here in the 80s. Let's say you got here in the 60s. That's still not that long ago. So None of y'all have had to endure building things and having people come kill your males, take it from you, and you have to go and start again with the trauma of what happens to Black people when they build something great and knowing what white people will do to get it. Does that make you want to go out and work hard? You think the people, I'm not saying because I don't know what happened, I'm just saying, like, imagine, like, can you just imagine, like, you build this great city with all these Black people, you have all these things, and people come in and hang your daddy and burn your house down and take all your possessions and then steal your land and run you and your mama out of town so you can't even stay there. Yeah. So you got to just go and start all over again. But you're supposed to want to build to the level of what your daddy did when you saw what your daddy had and being successful got him murdered. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off what you're saying. No. My understanding, that was in the Black neighborhood. They just owned the businesses there. This was not their home.
Thank you, man. That's why I pulled it. That's why I pulled it back, and I said I did. That's why I said I'm gonna pull Black people out. I said, when's the last time white people did it? Because remember, all of our shit was by the dominant society.
Yeah. So yeah, none of them have experienced what we have gone through. This is just the game where everyone is acting like they have our story. And I'm glad that they're in this video, like, acknowledging the distinction, because this is not usually what happens. Usually the people that they place in these positions, they want to act like everyone is oppressed besides white males, and everyone is oppressed in the same way.
Exactly. That's it. And that's some bull. That's some straight bull. And that's why people be mad at me for being out here putting on my cape for the poor whites, but that's why they be shooting up shit. Y'all be trying the fuck out of them. Like, they life suck. They ain't got shit. And I'm talking about the poor ones. I'm not talking about these middle class entitled assholes. I'm talking about the poor ones. The ones who probably got some meth heads in their family. The ones that had the lights turned off a couple times. The ones that might have worried about a meal here or there. I'm talking about, like, ones that have lived in real poverty. You expect them to feel sorry and feel like they should just be happy that they're poor white men and they should just take a backseat to people that you're bringing here who have more money, more education, and they're just supposed to be okay with it because since they're brown, they come from being oppressed, even though these are not oppressed people. Sounds like some bullshit to me. I'm just saying. Like, everybody competing against, and I'm not just saying that all immigrants are coming, it's not even all that, but I'm just saying, like, why are kids at the border more important than the poor white kids in Appalachia? Like, the poor white kids in Appalachia are Americans. I understand. Like, who fights for them? Nobody.
Yeah, what the POCs, what they often try to do is try to kind of relate. They try to relate their story back home. They have more in common. People of color have more in common than Irish people and German people because their stories are similar. Back home I was starving, and back home I fled a war. But we're talking about America though, So they try to tie in that story, this immigration story of how those white people was probably fleeing violence and poverty in 18. That's a more similar story than what happened to us here, being chattel slaves, like you said, Sam, building things, getting things taken away from us, systemic oppression here in America. So that's another way they try to talk. Well, back home it happened, but look, but now you here and you know what I mean? Like now you here and you obviously elevated, you have a higher social position than us in this country. And I think like they don't want to admit that point, but I guess I'll give them a C plus now. I guess I give them a C plus. I mean, they brought it up, but they get a
I'm
C
glad
plus.
you raised their grade. All right. Anything else? Or I'm gonna keep rolling because we still got another video from them.
Let's go.
Or they're not wealthy because they want to sit on their butts. No, you have to educate your family members or people about the idea that we didn't have to go through the obstacles that Black people did. And actually, we have a lot to owe to Black people for our success in this country. Because by the time we came here in a large wave, it was 1965, the civil rights had already been intact for 10 years. And so society, ideas, thinking was shifting, right? And so people were more willing to accept us. Now, we experience racism. I experienced a lot of it when I was younger. It doesn't mean that we're not experiencing it, but the difference is that we don't experience it in a systemic way that oppresses us. Someone calling me Sindhu the Hindu hurt my feelings, but it didn't stop me from having widespread opportunity. You don't dismiss and dismantle stereotypes until you actually get to know people. I remember when my parents came back from your sister's wedding, my dad was like, "Oh, those people are amazing. They're just like us. They're good people." I mean, that was, I don't know how many years ago since they got married, but like
a long time.
15 years ago.
15 years ago.
And I remember my dad being like, they're great people. And because, our parents have been friends for like 40 something years. So if his friends are allowing and accepting his daughter to get married and they met them.
She did say early on that she had Black people in her family. So they are talking about her family member marrying a Black man.
Oh.
Yeah, they dropped it in the beginning. They dropped it in the lead. So, but right now they're not mentioning the race. They're just talking about like, oh, they were good people. Yeah, no, it was Black.
Disrupt stereotypes, but that wouldn't have happened unless they sat down or they'd exposure to them.
Right.
So that's another thing, is breaking bread with people and just getting to know people. And a lot of times, I do a lot of this work with just multiracial people, and they say, well, I don't have access to Black people. Bullshit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you have access to Black people.
You have access to anyone. And it may not be like the most natural thing. It may not be like the easiest thing. But just putting yourself in positions that you meet other kinds of people that are different from you, I think is just beneficial in general.
Yeah. And it might mean like talking to your post person, right? It might mean like, at the gas station when you go by,
engaging with a random person.
Yeah, the cab driver, just getting to know little snippets of people and hearing their history so that we can have more compassion and see that there isn't a single way of being Black, right?
The girl in the jean jacket got the right idea. The other chick, everything she said was classist. The cab driver, everybody she was naming were like people you can't really build authentic relationships with. The other chick was like, just go out and meet a Black person. Just like they're around. Say hi. Like everything she said was classist. But again, she's probably a high caste. So again, C. A solid C. This is a strong
Yeah, her grade go back down, definitely. Like, word up. Go meet the janitor. The butlers are around, maids are around, the janitor's there, the guy that drives to pick up the garbage can, he's there. You can talk to him.
Get a different perspective.
Word
up. All right. You got anything else? We'll keep going. I think we got 2 minutes. Let's ride this one out. I'll quit nitpicking because they did a good job. They did a good job. So I don't want to go too bad. I'm still nitpicking because this is what we do. If we're going to talk about race, we're going to be nitpicky so people can understand the severe nuances. Like, if we're going to go there, we're going to go there. But this is good for an introductory. Like, if you don't really care, this is good. Like, if you really want to learn some shit, this is very surface. But what do you get in 10 minutes? All right, let's rock.
Isn't a single way of being Black, right? Black people are not a homogenous group, just like Indian people are. We have many bad people and good people and smart people, and you know, and it's the same thing with Black Americans, and and I think that we have to remember that we are not better than other people.
No,
we tend to be ethnocentric as humans, right? It's not just Indian people, and we also self-segregate, and we think our way is.
That is not true. Black people don't do that shit. That is not true. That is not a Black American trait at all.
I do want to say this, like, at least she's acknowledging it within her culture, because just to have that conversation of like, you have to go out and find Black people to talk to, like, that's only a conversation if you're not around Black people, like, ever. So, like, I think that, like, I don't know. I also think that you were right about how she was describing us. Like, it was always like in a lower position, and I'm looking at a D.
I might be. I might be. I don't feel it.
Minimum of a C. A minimum of a C because they did the video.
I might have to go back
and they did not do a video that was pro hating Black people, so they automatically get a minimum of a C minus. They have to at least pass. We are not failing people.
They might get a C. But damn, but mother, I ain't mad at that D either.
C minus is the curve for this class.
Yeah, because you can see it's still in them though. You know, I mean, are they trying? But you can
like
see,
I said, the C minus is the curve for this class. So if we want to give somebody a D or an F, I'll go find a video. That's easy. We can go pull up the dude who was talking about our issue, the issue between the Black and the Asian community started with the riots.
All right, I guess we're gonna grade the curve, I guess, but I don't know. But you can still see that cast in them. You can still see it in them. Like,
that was very casted. Yeah,
even when she was like, even when she was like, when they went to the wedding, the Black wedding, and her father was like, these are good people. Mm-hmm. You can see like, what he thought he wasn't good. What the fuck? What the fuck you talking about? Well, you know, it is what it is, man. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna play a little. This is one thing though. When you deal with these families that have like these rich cultures that go back generations, they buy into that lie and that stereotype that Black people have no culture. So when it comes to like connecting their families, they're worried because they feel like you're just gonna have no culture. And not only are you not gonna have any culture, they're worried that you're not gonna have culture and you won't even come in and respect their culture. So that's why what he meant by, oh, these are nice people, because they probably, the Black people who were there, if it was an Indian marriage, it was most likely an Indian wedding, which means everybody respected the culture of the Indian people and what was going on in the wedding. So they get to see, oh, Black people will wear our clothes, Black people will eat our food, Black people will respect our traditions. And then they're like, oh, they're good people too. So there's a lot that goes into it. Sorry, I watch a lot of Indian TV on Netflix. I'm fucking obsessed with it. This Indian matchmaking shit is my shit. And they are colorist and castist and all kinds of stuff. And it's quite interesting, but it's still a good show. I quite enjoy it. And then I watched this Nollywood thing. It was like watching a 90s novella, but Nollywood / Bollywood. It was interesting. Good on Netflix. So, all right. Anything else? Because I want to play this out so we can go to the next video.
Yeah, let's do it.
Way is the right way, but our way is just the different way, right?
Yeah, and I think a part of that is probably to maintain tradition, maintain culture, and that can be done by still, I mean, we live in America, and so people look different, and we need to learn about the people around us so we can be good community members, so we can be good neighbors. Yeah. Things are just going to continue to change when we have children and whatnot, and want them to be going out into the world and like being good people.
One thing that I think that we can all do in the Indian community is explore our own biases and prejudices, right? Because if you're a human, that means that you're prejudiced. It's not a bad or good thing. Everyone has biases and prejudices. And I'm pretty sure that if you're Malayali like us, like 99% chance that you've heard an auntie, uncle, friend, cousin say something that was anti-Black, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so we all are, and we just have to take some time to explore why do we think like this?
Yeah.
Where did this come from, right? In order to be able to identify that a lot of this is subconscious. Like we are anti-Black because we're just living in America, and America, it's.
And this is why she can't fail. Because at the end of the day, we just need people of color to admit that they're anti-Black in their own cultures, and that they bring that anti-Blackness to this country, and they deal with us, and they interact with us through their anti-Black lens. And if we can dismantle that, then we can start having real conversations about how to build alliances. Because as soon as you can dismantle your anti-Blackness, or until you can just figure out like, okay, well, we gonna let the Black people have the stuff that they want. They're gonna let us get this stuff over here, and we're gonna go and do our thing separately. Because like I said, I don't expect everybody to change in a generation, but I do expect us to find a way to work together so we can get what we need. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was gonna actually agree. Yeah, I just didn't like the part where they were talking about like you can meet a Black person at the gas station. Like it's like what the fuck? Like but I get it. I get it.
I like the gas station one. That one was bad. It was all the other ones. Because I don't have a problem with you meeting Black people randomly. Like, if you don't see Black people around, Black people are not in your everyday circle. Like, for you to, like, talk, like, okay, like, I'm out somewhere, let me speak to a random Black person and, like, try to spark up a conversation. I don't have a problem with that. Because I tell people all the time, like, go out and find some Black people. So if the closest Black person you can find is at a gas station, then fuck it. Like, spark up conversation, see how they're doing, like, have a decent conversation. Who knows, if y'all hit it off, they might consider like, hey, would you ever have coffee with me? I'd love to just kind of talk to you. People do it all the time. I've made random ass friends.
I hear you. I just didn't take it like as them just meeting a Black person in passing. I took it as them like talking to a Black person that was like working at the gas station. So
well, that's how I felt about the girl. Like I said, the one in the jean jacket was like, just meet a Black person anywhere. She was like, go out and find one. The other one, all her shit was classist. I completely agree with you. That was some classist shit. She was like, talk to your driver. Yeah, she was like, talk to your Uber driver. Which I guess, but like as an Uber driver, like what can I really say? Because if I offend you, you can down my rating.
And then, like, are you really having deep conversations with your Uber driver? Like, it might happen, or you're drunk one night. But I'm saying on a regular, basis, are you doing that?
No. When I drove Uber, most people didn't want to talk to you, which is great because I don't want to talk to them neither.
Yo, I got a crazy story. I met an Indian Uber driver a few years ago. Like, word up, he was an older Indian dude. He was like, he was rich and shit. So like, I get shit was funny as hell. So I get in the shit. I'm gonna go pick up my hoop rod from the car shop. So he was like, what you doing? Like, he like, what are you doing? Where you going? I'm like, I'm going to get my car. So we just started talking about shit. He like, yeah, I'm from India. I'm a millionaire. He's like, I drive Uber now because I'm bored. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I'm bored. Like, everybody good. I'm a millionaire. So I started talking about his story. Like, all right, well, how you start? He was in real estate and shit like that. I said, how you even get started in that shit? So like, first he tried to give me his little immigrant. Only came here with $5,000. I'm like, but how you? But then it got deeper. Then he was like, oh yeah, well,
5,000 what? 1960, fucker. That feels like 100,000.
But but check this out though. But then as I got deep into his story, I found out that one of his family members in India owned the chandelier company.
There's always somebody with some money. Wow. Go ahead, John.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, wow, that's the problem. I'm first learning the data, first getting into the ADOS, getting into the reparation shit. I'm like, wow, I see that shit in real life. But he was cool, he gave me his business card. I'm like, yo, my credit fucked up. Like, he was like, yo, my friend, if you can get your credit score together, man, I can get you. He's like, you seem like a good dude, my friend. I'm like, I'm trying to get bread. I'm like, yeah, man, no, he ain't that bad. Like, black people is regular. I'm trying to eat. I'm starving. He gave me his business card. Like, you get your credit score together, like, yo, holla at me. Word up, I can get you into some shit. I was like, I never called him though. I don't trust the motherfuckers, but I never called. But now, be honest with you, now I never called him because I never got my credit score up. Because that shit real. I'm still working on
Black
that.
life shit. That's some real descendant of chattel slavery kind of life right there, right?
That's some real Negro shit right there. But yeah, that's type of shit.
But just so y'all know, when I run off in 5-6 years from now, when people who don't know me see me, they're gonna be like, "Look at her, she's self-made." She and y'all gonna be sitting there like, "Nope, lies. Everything is a lie. Everything is a lie."
Saying you out of control.
Because, like you said, when you start pulling through the story, you were like, "Oh well, like your mama gave you like 3 cars," and like you start pulling through stories like, "Oh well, your parents put you through college," or "Oh, your parents," like when I was working at the car dealership, and that white girl told me like her parents had to help them, so they had a down payment, but the apartment went over market. So if your apartment goes over the market value, you have to pay cash anything that goes over market value, because the bank will not give you the money for the loan for that shit. So if the shit is $100,000 and it gets bid up to $200,000, you got to come up with the other $100,000 cash yourself. The bank will not give it to you. So basically, of course, they were close to the beach, so I'm sure that place was probably like 1.3, 1.5, and if it got bid up, she might have had to pay somewhere up to like 2 million. So her family had to come up with the 20%. No, her family had to come up with the extra like 500,000. The families had to come with like the extra 500,000 for them to get this place. Sorry, not 5. Yeah, it was a lot of money. They had to come with some bread. So like a lot of times y'all understand, like a lot of these people who came here with nothing, they had a family member who gave them something, who gave them a little leg up and a boost. All right, rock it out. Last minute.
Let's do it.
It's again embedded in the fabric of this country. I think another thing is to use your privilege and power to be an advocate and ally for people that are more oppressed than you. So we are people of color, right? But we are a privileged group of color.
Yeah.
And so when you see or hear anti-Blackness, anti-Black racism, call it out. Because when you're silent, then you're standing on the side of the oppressor.
If you are a privileged person of color, what is the point of people of color? Because the whole point of people of color was supposed to be a disadvantaged group, right? That was supposed to be the new minority, right? Minority people of color are supposed to be interchangeable. So if you're privileged, then how are you a minority?
Yeah, we need to throw out all this language.
It's all trash. It's all trash.
It's all bullshit.
It's all trash. It needs to just be, you need to be what you are. Even if that's why they're like, we need to do class stuff. Y'all need to do class stuff, but you need to give Black Americans reparations. Every other group is out here pulling a con.
Exactly.
We've had people in our Indian Malayali community that have been murdered, right?
Yeah.
Because they've been associated with terrorism, right? That's a horrible thing. But when we have to stop just working for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We need to advocate for our South Asians and our Indian Malayali, even Kannada communities. But we have to also start being selfless and working for other groups, so that we can all truly be equal.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And what she just said is what we are demanding. I'm glad that she said it, because then we know that it's not far-fetched and we're not asking for too much. Because what she said is what I just said. You have to demand more from yourself. So you have to start standing with other communities and not just thinking about your own community. If you do that, Black people will start standing with you again and giving a fuck about what's going on in your communities. But until you do, we're going to sit back here and start playing the game how y'all been playing the game, because we see how y'all been playing the game since y'all got here. Our memories are long. And even though they fucked up the end of it, winter is coming. Like we remember this shit. Like we're tired. So we've been watching you guys play these games for a long time. And we see it, and we started playing by your rules, and people haven't liked it. So if you want us to start, being on this all-inclusive, we're all one kind of thing, y'all got to do what she said. Got to start, working for the collective, and you need to fight against anti-Blackness. Y'all got anything for this one before we move to the other one to see if they got better in the next video?
Yeah, and they need to fight for reparations too, and get on board with this Black agenda too.
This video is from 2019, so I feel like that was at the beginning of our push.
All right. They still should get down with it though. We still gotta let them know though. They
You
really care about
anti-Blackness. Sean, you got to slide in their comments.
You
gonna put reparations, they gonna turn into conservative Republicans on you, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing about it. Like, you want to get down with us, reparations. I don't think that is necessary. We could just talk it. Nah.
Yeah, now people are trying to use COVID. I don't think the timing is good because we don't know how much we will end up spending on COVID. I don't give a fuck because you didn't care when they was giving the banks $1 trillion a day. That was our money. You spent Negroes' money on the bank.
But sis, you already know reparations. That's the word that bring out. That's when we need to figure out really who could really be an ally and who not. Once you start bringing when you bring that up, sis, we all know this. You the one. We all went through this shit, mud. We all know. MG know. You bring up reparations, man. Then you see who on the what POCs.
You start
really
separating the wheat from the shaft. Yeah, that's the difference. That's real. Mm-hmm.
Word up, so that's what I got for it. Cousin Mud, what up? Mud?
You on mute, Mud?
Oh, we're at the end?
That one, yeah. We're going to play the other one. We're going to play the other one. I said, do you have any final thoughts for this one? Because we're going to see if they did better in the next one.
Nah, y'all said it. As long as they get behind reparations in that 6 quadrillion, I'm cool.
6.4.
Yeah.
They took so much. We need our bread now. 6 quadrillion. That's crazy.
6.4.
Yeah. Already. Welcome to the Upside Down Smiley Show, where we talk about real life, but we don't take life too seriously. My name is Shireen, and we have Sindhu here. Sindhu is a diversity and inclusion consultant and communication professor. So today is going to be our part 2 for anti-Blackness. We did a video where we talked about anti-Blackness in the South Asian community, and we asked our Instagram communities about how this shows up in their lives and examples, and so we wanted to share that.
So one of the things that I realized after I put a call out to ask people that follow me on Instagram and just my community of South Asian people on how anti-Blackness shows up in their lives is that a lot of people think that anti-Blackness is like overt racism, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning like racial slurs against Black people, or thinking that Black people, that you're superior to a Black person. And that's not really what we're talking about with anti-Blackness. It's more covert, it's less visible, and we have grouped the feedback that we got into 3 different themes. And we obviously don't have time to share all of the stories, but we're just going to share some significant ones to help you understand how anti-Blackness might show up in South Asian communities. So the first one was disapproval of romantic relationships. And I had an Instagram user reach out to me who happens to be Malayali and told me that his cousin just told her family that she was in love with a Black man, and his family was not happy about it. He said specifically the older members of their family, the older generation, was just very upset, saying that it would be a huge shame on their family. And his uncle had called him and said, are you ready to be a dad? Because when your first cousin gets married and has children, you know what's going to happen to this Black guy that she's marrying. He's going to not be in the picture, and you need to step up and be a dad, right? The idea that, Black men are not fathers, they don't take care of their children, which is a stereotype. Yeah. That's reiterated by society in many different ways.
Right, and then I have heard a family member, an uncle specifically, we were watching a football game and there was a Black football player on the screen, and I don't know exactly what we were talking about, but the topic of he probably doesn't have a father came up. Stereotypes are not all true among all Black people, and I think it's just like this conversation about like people not having fathers and whatnot, this is like learned behavior. So in the same situation, I've heard that uncles daughter say things that are negative about Black people. And so she's learned that obviously from her father.
And with the relationships, I think another thing is a lot of us here, if you're a South Asian woman growing up in this country, you've probably heard, you can you try to marry Indian, but, just definitely don't bring home a Black guy. And for us, it's like, don't bring home a Karaman. And I was just yesterday hanging out with a friend who said that he didn't realize that, he actually participated in anti-Blackness, but he has a sister. And he would always tell her, you can marry whoever you want, but no Karamans, right? And so that, in fact, is an example of anti-Blackness.
Right. And, like for my family, my sister married a Black man 15 years ago. And this was a long time ago. And, my family was supportive. Like, we came together. And although it's very different, and we know that everyone is not like this, like, we know that there are a lot of situations where, it's just off limits for like romantic relationships.
The second theme was colorism. And this is another covert way in the idea that lighter and whiter skin is more beautiful and darker skin is more stigmatized and not as attractive, was a big theme for the feedback that I got. And I think in general there's a negative stigma. One of the Instagram users messaged me, and she grew up in Texas, and she said that from a young age her mom would take her to the salon to get bleaching facials. And it wasn't just her, it was like all the Indian girls that she knew.
Right. How many people do you know that use Fair and Lovely?
I mean, like, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in India and Asia. It's like lightening your skin, but like this is American-born girl who's in Texas, like going to a salon to get her skin bleached. You know? And the mom is taking them. I mean, that you just got to think about like what is so bad with having dark skin, but we have these Eurocentric notions of beauty to believe that like lighter is better, and it's really prevalent in our community. I have a nutritionist. She's in the Bay Area and she's South Asian, and she said that she has clients that are American-born Indians that will come to her that are pregnant, saying, "Does will eggplant make my baby's skin dark? If I drink milk, will it make my baby's skin lighter?" And she's like, "I'm just so stunned at these American-born Indians who will do whatever they can do to ensure that their unborn babies have lighter and whiter skin." Another theme came up with nicknames. So another person reached out to me and said that when she's dark skinned, and when she was born, her grandfather created a nickname for her that translated into black, or like blackie, right? And that she had a tub of sunscreen that was on their kitchen counter, and she was forced to use the sunscreen every day, where it was like a problem where she would have like fights with her family because she didn't want to use sunscreen, right? So it's not just like,
I'm gonna let them keep going, but they said a lot of deep stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, whew. Yeah, they said a lot of deep stuff, like don't bring Black people home. That feels like that's pretty much a lot amongst a lot of cultures. I remember when I was a teenager, when I was a freshman in high school, I was dating this white Greek boy, and his grandmother was like, "Why can't you find a nice white girl to date?" So, like, this is real. And when she starts... Oh, go ahead, Med.
Well, I was going to say it's also internal within the Black community, because the differences between Black Americans who descend from American child slavery and these other groups, a lot of them look down on us and don't want us to be married into their families.
What I took away though is that every other group of people got a word for nigga. That's crazy.
I was gonna pause that part too. Yes, everybody do, but we don't have a word for nobody. Like, what's our slur for Indian Americans? What's that we created? You understand what I'm saying? That we created.
You don't got one, sis. But everybody got a word for nigga though.
I'm telling
you something.
And this skin bleaching shit is crazy.
More than $400 million worth of skin whitening products is sold each year in India alone.
8 out of 10 women in Nigeria use skin lightening products, the world's highest percentage.
Skin lightening market in Asia Pacific alone is valued at over $13 billion US.
I guess niggas don't realize a good thing until it's gone. You know what I'm saying, man?
That shit is an epidemic across cultures. Let me tell you, I'm so glad that I got comfortable with my skin in my like early to mid 20s, because I see like how a lot of people have like lost themselves. They just like full on bleaching. Ooh, that's too much. Ooh, that's too much. It's easy to just love yourself.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, Gorilla Glue Hair Girl was crazy, but this shit crazy though. Like, I ain't gonna lie, that's like that shit not really in our. Even though they be quote unquote got these kind of color wars or whatever, but not amongst our people, but not to the extent where you see a whole bunch of sisters in the hood trying to put on sunscreen to be lighter. Like that's just, you like, you black, you just accept that shit. Like, even if you don't, we just got to accept that shit, except for Uncle Ruckus or some shit like that, or Jesse Lee Peterson or one of these crazy motherfuckers.
I don't know about that. That's not necessarily true, because when I was a kid growing up, I still remember me and this girl Candace like fighting over who was lighter. So this shit, like I said, that shit runs deep in our communities.
But
and
but you ain't jump in the tub of bleach though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't go to the extreme to buy products to get lighter though. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Like 10 years. No, that's not true. Okay. What it was at that time we were like 11, 12 years old. Our mamas wasn't out here buying products like that. But imagine if we would have had mothers who would have encouraged those kind of thoughts and who would have went and bought us those kind of products. Then we would have been doing it, because at that time we wouldn't have deemed it unacceptable. And if we would have had parents pushing it, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we also got to realize we went through the pro-black movement that changed our culture. Because if you go back to like the 50s and 40s, you'll see, you know, with the perms and all types of shit.
Straight,
you know, that shit could have continued, and we would be walking around with a bunch of motherfuckers bleaching their skin and doing all of that shit too.
Yeah,
you're right. That's facts.
And we still got a sector that do. We done seen a lot of black people that are a lot lighter now than they were when we were first introduced to them.
Shout out to Michael Jackson.
I ain't want to say it, but shit. But now you kind of right. But like that, you're right. But like that shit is really.
Shout out to Stacey Dash. Shit.
That shit really deep in their community though. And the Indians, the Asians, like real talk, certain black immigrants,
but
like
she's Dominican too.
Caribbean, so. Like certain people from these countries, that shit really deep in they shit though. They be going to extremes with this shit, man. So we once did too, but we got our shit right though. Word up, kinda, not really though. You know.
We're doing our best, right? Yeah, we're doing our best, but that self-hate is real, and we just gotta find the balance of self-love between self-love and narcissists that we're having. But let's keep going.
Hey, use sunscreen so you know you protect your skin from all the rays. It's like use sunscreen because otherwise you're going to be dark.
Right, and I'm sure all of us have heard that. Like whenever you've gotten a tan, people call it out, right? Everyone always calls out when the skin is darker. It's something that people in our community notice.
Yeah.
And they make this negative connotation to having darker skin. Heard a young gentleman that had started growing his hair out, and he had curly hair, like tighter curly hair. And he was talking about how his mom said, like, you have Caribbean hair now, and cut it. Right? So she's making this connection of black hair. Caribbean means black in our language. And it being a bad thing, and wanting him to have less of a connection to like black people and having black hair. And we even talked about like, you know, using the word kalu and Caribbean. Yeah, like it's just a word. But a lot of times when people are using it, they're using it in a negative way.
In a negative way, yeah. And with that example, another Instagram user messaged me and said that they have an auntie in their community named Karabi Kunyama. And again, Karabi means black in our language, and Kunyama is her name. And we were kind of saying like, isn't it interesting that when somebody's dark, we call it out and we like give them a nickname. But then when somebody's light skinned, we don't say like Velata Tessie or Velata Tankama, which is our mom's names, and our moms happen to be real really like.
Right.
We just call them sundari and beautiful, right? We say that they're just gorgeous, and we kind of idolize their lighter and whiter skin, but we always call out the darker skin, people. And I think that's just something to think about. So those are all ways that, colorism, just some of the ways that colorism manifests in South Asian communities in terms of colorism. And the last theme was forbidden friendships. So, and this is similar to the forbidden romantic relationships, but this is from a young age telling children don't play with Black kids. And so I have somebody who told me that they grew up in an all-white community and they had been living in that community for 7 years before a Black.
I'm glad that she's dropping tea from the Asians, because we talk about this a lot from the Africans when they be talking about we're all Black, but y'all was raised and told not to hang out with us and not be friends with us.
Yeah, and then we have people who don't admit that this is an actual thing, but we've heard the stories enough to know that it is. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. Anything, John?
Nah, yeah, that's definitely a real thing, man. Other immigrant groups don't want to associate, particularly with us, American Negroes, for some reason. We know the reason, but that's a real thing, man. That's a real thing. I seen that shit up close. They'll let you know other Black people that's not from them, that don't descend from chattel slavery. They'll let you know that shit in a minute. This is my culture. This is where I'm from. But then when the police try and beat you up, then it's all we all Black. It's this is you. This is you. This is me. We Black, but this is me. You not me. They'll let you know that shit in a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of all this shit is bullshit. So I'm just happy we gotta just keep continuing to deconstruct this shit, man. This shit ain't good for our people. You play these games.
So we aren't people of color. We aren't in Black and Brown Alliance.
Nope.
We aren't all minorities. We aren't, a part of this Democratic coalition together. The reality is we're kind of on our own.
Yep.
See, people should be so happy this week. I used my words. I found nice things to convey how I was feeling. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell y'all F y'all kids this week. see how respectful I am when people come out and are talking respectfully about my people. Yeah. See, this is it. This is all we need. We just need y'all societally to shift towards about where they're at. That would be a good start. And then we can do some real work. All right. Anything else before I play this last little bit?
All right, go ahead and play.
Okay. 7 years before a Black family moved in, and the person had befriended the Black child, and they were playing in their house, and their dad came home from work, and when the kid left, the dad said, "You cannot play with that person anymore. You're not allowed to play with this Black neighbor." Mm-hmm. And the person who reached out to me said she was so upset and asked, "Why would you say that?" And he's like, "Well, the white neighbors just accepted us, so we don't want to go backwards. Nobody wants this Black family to live here, so we don't want to be friends with them. Otherwise, it's going to look like we're supporting them, and we want to be, accepted."
Look at her telling the damn truth about the caste system in America. Look at this shit. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now we going back. You got Mud. Can you slow that one down for me on the replay?
The kid left. The dad said, "You cannot play with that person anymore."
Hold on. I'll make sure we go back so we can hear the whole little thing. Cause this Mud, I think we struck gold. We could do this for a year. You feeling me?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mm-mm.
Okay, sorry. This is the replay.
Or a Black family moved in, and the person had befriended the Black child, and they were playing in their house, and their dad came home from work, and when the kid left, the dad said, "You cannot play with that person anymore. You're not allowed to play with this Black neighbor." Mm-hmm. And the person who reached out to me said she was so upset and asked, "Why would you say that?" And he's like, "Well, the white neighbors just accepted us, So we don't want to go backwards. Nobody wants this Black family to live here. So we don't want to be friends with them. Otherwise, it's going to look like we're supporting them, and we want to be, accepted and, appreciated and continue to, have the status that we earned in the last 7 years.
Right, and that's actually a reoccurring story that I heard as well. Like, no, you can have white friends, you can have other Asian friends, but not Black friends. And, I think a lot of this, there's maybe fear behind it, being scared of the unknown, not knowing Black people, on a personal level. And I think, what we've also gotten some feedback of, resistance to this conversation. And people were feeling maybe this sense of I'm not racist. I'm not anti-Black.
Yeah.
Or my parents, they can't control it, or this is something that's learned, right? And that is okay. We're not trying to blame people. We're not trying to make this about you're bad and we're perfect. No, not at all. We both.
I'm working on my anti-racism throughout my whole life. It's a process.
Yeah.
But I think that, into what you said, I had somebody write me with that. My parents, they don't know any better. This is the way that they were socialized. It's hard to unlearn something that has been there for decades. And my answer to that is, it's hard to unlearn it, but you can unlearn it, right?
Yeah.
So we have to make the effort towards anti-racism and be allies with Black, communities and Black Americans. And that takes.
So she was talking about how people talk about it's hard with their parents. How about we don't start with your parents? How about you start with you and your babies? Because there's a lot of racist ass 16, 15, 16, 17-year-olds running around here right now. And they learning it from their parents who are y'all age. So how about we start there? Instead of trying to change the old ass people, how about we don't try to make people 65 and up not be racist? How about that be the cutoff? If you are eligible for Medicare at this moment, we do not need to change your heart and mind and make you an anti-racist. We just need you to get out of Black people's way. And then for those of you who are younger, who want to have Black and Brown coalitions, because it's the younger people who are actually out here doing the fight, y'all start with yourselves. Start with yourselves, get rid of that anti-Blackness, and then don't be anti-Black with your kids. So when you have kids, encourage your kids to be friends with the Black kids. There you go. Start there. It's little shit, but it's something.
I think it's interesting that. Well, first of all, they try to say this is something that's been around for decades. And it's no, y'all didn't come over here and just learn to hate Black people within a decade or two. And this is something that's kind of already been baked into that, all of this equation. But once you do get here, what it sounds like you're trying to do is find your spot within proximity to whiteness.
Yeah.
So that seems to be the main issue here. And I don't think people are necessarily being honest about it. Now they are being honest about it, but in general, people aren't being honest, especially within a lot of these POC communities.
Just to piggyback what y'all was saying, I think she really just admitted just how people of color, how they don't want to give up. I think we talked about this before on another episode, how people don't want to give up their advantage over other, you know what I mean? They don't want to give up their advantage, the advantage. No group wants to give up their advantage. A group gets an advantage, they don't want to let that shit go. They hold on to that shit any way they can. And in fact, just by being in proximity to us, first of all, she said they moved to the person said they moved to a white community that didn't want the Black family there. If she just broke that's how the whole shit worked. That's how it worked. You know what I mean? That's how she just broke down how the shit really work in the real world, in real time. I'm glad she's bringing it up, but that's just how this is just how the country work, man. Word up, it's just fucked up. That's why I'm just focused on my people like that. And like Mud said, it's prevalent in a lot of these immigrant communities. It's just built in the fabric, and it's just built into America to be this way. So, it is what it is, though. We still rolling. We still rocking. So, you know,
All right.
that's all I got.
Sam, play us out.
Sorry, I thought I had myself unmuted.
Takes a little bit of work, so we just have to be willing to think about it. And I think if you take anything from this video, realize that anti-Blackness isn't overt racism. It isn't racial slurs or feeling superior. It shows up and manifests in many different ways in South Asian communities. I think part of, the reason that I talk about anti-Blackness, because I think allyship is so important between communities of color. And, in times where we're hearing our president say, go back to your country, it affects people like us, South Asian immigrants. We need Black and Indigenous people to stand up for us and against xenophobia, just like they need us to stand up for.
Aha!
You know, pull the curtain back like Black people.
Give me a second, John. Give me a second. Let me go back a few seconds. Just in case anybody missed it. I'm gonna go just in case anybody missed it.
That into what you said, I had somebody write me with that, my parents, they don't know any better. This is the way that they were socialized. It's hard to unlearn something that has been there for decades. And my answer to that is, it's hard to unlearn it, but you can unlearn it, right? So we have to make the effort towards anti-racism and be allies with Black communities and Black Americans, and that takes a little bit of work. So we just have to be willing to think about it. And I think if you take anything from this video, realize that anti-Blackness isn't overt racism. It isn't racial slurs or feeling superior. It shows up and manifests in many different ways in South Asian communities. I think part of, the reason that I talk about anti-Blackness, because I think allyship is so important between communities of color. And, in times where we're hearing our president say, go back to your country, it affects people like us, South Asian immigrants. We need Black and Indigenous people to stand up for us and against xenophobia, just like they need us to stand up for them and stand against and speak out against.
So I hate to tell you this, but I really don't need you. I just need white people because there's so many of them. I'm sorry. Forgive me. But aha, you just said the reason why you do this is because you know that the day can come that the pitchforks turn on you. And you got to stop this anti-Black stuff before they realize that you Asians got the majority of the money and they start running up on you like they used to on Negroes back when we had nice shit. When y'all get the real American experience. So, I hope that never happens because the shit that happened to Black Americans in this country was vile, and I wouldn't want to see it happen to any community because it was vile. But yeah, that was it. But I'm glad you said it. I'm glad. I love her. She says it out loud. She says it out loud. She was wonderful. Y'all got anything else? I think she was amazing. I'll play the last of it if you don't. Want to play the last couple seconds and then let's do our final thoughts? Okay, I see John nodding, so I'm gonna go with it.
Racism and the oppression that they've experienced. And so I think, we really need to unite together as, immigrants, communities of color, Black and Indigenous people, and to support each other.
Sindhu and I are making these videos because we care. And we want to, create awareness about this topic and dismantle anti-Blackness. And we hope that you join the journey, have those conversations with your peers, have those conversations with the older generation. Please reach out to us and let's continue this conversation. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Sindhu, for being here.
Thanks for having me again.
Yes, and thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Not bad. I ain't mad at it. This was better than their first video. I like all of it. I just don't care about talking to old people about racism. Like I said, after a certain age, I just feel like it's a waste of time. Like, you're just not going to change them. Like, you might get them to kind of work on curtailing their language, but they may not even do that. The best thing you can do is educate yourself, educate your children. And then when you have kids will correct them. Kids will be like, Grandma, you can't say that. Because you will have taught them what they can and cannot do. And over time, the kids will shame them into it. Or the world will. But, for the most part, like I said, I just don't see changing, like, after a certain age, I just don't see that happening. I feel like that's unrealistic. What we have to do is dismantle the system of white supremacy, and then we have to work on making sure that we are less racist and that our children are less racist. That's the best way I can put it. And when I say we, I mean you people of color and you white people. Y'all got anything? I know it's close. What we got for closing up? Like I said, I just like this video. They got to some deep stuff in this video.
Well, I think, man, I mean, this video, they said a lot of stuff, you know what I mean, that Asians, I mean, that got to be brought to the light. But, you know, some things I agree with. I wish they'd have went deeper. And that ending part though, we need Black and Indigenous people to help me. So they looking for solidarity low key. And I'm be honest with you, man, they want some solidarity, man. They gotta really start supporting reparations in the Black agenda. I'm sorry, that's the sword I'm falling on. Like, I understand all that stuff, other stuff is nice, but it don't really mean nothing if my people are not in a position to really, you know what I mean, for any of these things, these social issues, or just people on individual levels not being racist. All that stuff is nice, and it's better, but you know, but that's how I feel about it. I mean, I guess they pass, I guess.
And I'm gonna keep it a buck, John. Give me the Japanese, Chinese, Indian, Asian wealth, and I'll take a racial slur from time to time. I may still pop you in the mouth, but it ain't gonna stop my day.
Nope, absolutely. So that's how I feel about the shit.
Like when I'm stable, you hurting my feelings. Doesn't matter when I have money to feed myself, my family. You feel me?
And I'm happy they broke down like just how, you feel me? Like how, you know, oftentimes you hear people that's in this movement talk about how, you know, being in proximity to us is how we are contagion of wealth and social status and stuff like that. And Indian, these POCs, they know this shit. They know this shit, and they never want to admit it. I don't give a fuck. All POC. They never, when we start talking about this shit, a lot of them don't never want to admit it. So I'm glad that they admitted that shit at least. That's the least thing I can say about the shit. But we need our bread though. We need our Wonder Bread, wheat bread, oat bread, honey oat bread. Give us our money. That's how I feel about this shit. So
that's it. Well, I think we had a good day today, and I think we were nice. I'm interested in going through some of these other videos. I feel like we get through a whole bunch of stuff, going through each group, just showing they stink. Because we believe the way we do for a reason. We have to get people to understand why we've come to the conclusions that we have.
Listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, back on the grill again. We grilling them, You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to U.S. Southern plantations. Penniage, Jim Crow, and mass incarceration. Redline and lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win, you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening. listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.